Yeah, I know my sister got married last week. Yeah. Last year. So my brother-in-law, they live in Houston now, but they live like an hour and a half away, right? Mm-hmm. So my sister came in, got my kids last week to go take them to see Little Mermaid.
Right.
My brother-in-law was like, all right, sis, she's gone. Let's go to the driving range. Yeah. I don't golf, right? At all. Oh, matter of fact, let's take it back. I be on Top Golf, so don't sleep on my Top Golf game. No, don't sleep. So I be swinging it. So went to the driving range, and it was kind of cool. It was hot as hell though, hot as hell. But getting out there, I was connecting. I felt good. I was like, okay, I see why y'all boys like this, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, my form is horrible.
Yeah, you got that.
Like I had to record me and try to look at myself, man.
I've never seen you play golf, but I already know.
Right, it's horrible.
I already know what it looks like.
Like I did everything.
I can already tell what it looks
your knees, focus on the ball.
Yeah, keep your eyes on the ball.
It's a swing. It's a twist of the hips. Keep this arm straight, bro. None.
You really need like to go out with a pro or get a golfing coach. If you're just starting, I would highly recommend it.
There's no something I could buy on Amazon or like.
There's plenty of things you can buy.
So both of y'all golf?
Mm-hmm. You see,
I used to golf. I just haven't had the time because you gotta dedicate quite a bit of time to go out there and golf.
See, I'm trying to get the shortcut.
18 holes.
I'm trying to go back out there next weekend and be that dude.
Play like a whole 9 rounds.
My line brother told me I need to watch videos like Roy. What's his name? Roy McElroy.
Roy McElroy.
Roy McElroy. Yeah.
You only knew how difficult it was. You know what? You know what's so addicting about it?
Yeah.
You get that one shot. You hit it like 280, maybe even 300 yards.
Yeah.
Deadline.
Yeah.
That's like 1 out of 50.
Yeah. You try to duplicate
It's that one time that you're trying to duplicate. But it's a golf. I mean, it's. I remember when I first started, I was like absolutely addicted. But I just know I can't dedicate the time.
You got clubs?
Yeah, to me, driving is the hardest thing to me. So like if you can drive it straight, and long, then that's a game within itself.
See, I need a good. I feel like I'm behind. I got to catch up to y'all.
No, you got plenty of time because in the back of my mind, when I retire, that's literally where I'm going to be.
What you going to do?
I'm going to live on the golf course.
You already thinking about retirement?
Say what? I started thinking about retirement when I was 18.
Yes, sir. So y'all don't have any tips or something I could read or nothing?
Getting a golf coach because there's so much that you have to consider that you need to really build repetition and habit. Mm-hmm. So the idea something even as simple as just keeping your head down,
bro,
with your follow.
As soon as your head comes up,
the clubs come up. I mean, just something simple as that, keeping elbows locked. Just kind of.
I'm gonna get it, man. I was trying to hold it like this, keep this arm straight, and swing. My thing about when I swing this way is my arms.
Yeah,
it's like I'm stiff or something.
I just can't see you.
Nah, man, don't sleep. I'm competitive. Don't sleep. I'm gonna get out there again. Give me a good 2 months.
Hey,
consistency.
2 months.
That's
all he needs is 2 months.
We need a player profiler golfing tournament.
Yeah.
Oh,
y'all see that money they exchange with that little
versus five
PGA merge?
Yeah.
Shoot, they making money like that? Yeah. I need to learn this game.
I think that ship has sailed.
No. Still got time, man. They got a senior PGA tour, right? They do got a
Muzio, set that up. I'm gonna email OG soon.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys, let's get the pod started. Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champion AB. Alongside him is my guy, Dio the Machine. Guys, I want to talk about quarterbacks for a second because it seems like quarterbacks have been pushed up the board a little bit, especially compared to last season. It looks like quarterbacks are being drafted around 4th, 5th round. I've seen Pat Mahomes.
3rd round, man. I've seen 3rd rounders.
Right, so second rounders.
I've seen Pat Mahomes go 3-1, but I haven't seen him going to second.
I've seen him going to second.
So
especially
that's
if you're trying to get the so non-elusive
that stack.
Yeah. So
a lot of people are doing now.
Quarterbacks are being pushed up the board this season compared to last season.
Yeah.
Tell me about your quarterback strategy. Do you want to get one early? Are you trying to, maybe get some value? get one late? Like, how are you guys seeing drafting quarterbacks this season?
Yeah, I mean, so just like with everything we talk about, because everyone's in different types of leagues, different scoring formats. So, you know, we're really looking at non-superflex leagues here. And, you know, let's focus on redraft for, you know, just the sake of this debate. I think this is a year where really you can approach it in so many different ways. I think that there is value across the board. So if you're like kind of pinning me down, you know, it is June 6th, and you know, what is my QB strategy today based off of the current board, based off of current ADPs? I think I'm looking at doing a couple of different things. I'm really just kind of honestly looking at diversifying. So one,
this is if you're like mass drafting, right?
This is exactly this is if you're volume drafting. Yeah. I think if you're doing just a few drafts or you're in your home leagues, my strategy would honestly be to try and get like a Mahomes, a Allen, a Hurts. Not necessarily because their values where they're going, but because of where the other quarterbacks are going. To me, it's making them values. Like I'm in so many drafts right now where I see, you know, the run of Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts in no particular order go like, you know, in the third round, usually that kind of mid-third round. There's a certain tier break there where, you know, I think most of us kind of feel things kind of drop off or there's a lot more question marks. But it's just odd to me then to see quarterbacks immediately go in the fourth round. So, you know, last year we saw the Mahomes and the Allens go early, but then we saw a little bit of a drop. You know, we're seeing guys kind of go later, you know, maybe fifth at the earliest, but really in the sixth round. So in my mind, you know, the value or the ADPs for Mahomes and Allens really haven't adjusted that much. And I think we all are in agreement that Hurts likely belongs in that tier. You know, that his likelihood of repeat, you know, barring any injury, is pretty high. So if those guys really haven't changed much from last year, but the other quarterbacks are coming up, then to me, that makes that tier of value. So that's a tier that I would like target. And then the guys that are going in the fourth round and sometimes maybe in the fifth round, to me, I'm just going to avoid them because I feel like I'm not getting a huge advantage. To me, honestly, like that back into the third round, all the way to the fifth round, and maybe into the sixth is just kind of one big nasty tier.
So you're not feeling Burrow and
not where they're going.
Herbert and Lamar.
Not where they're going. Not where they're going. I feel like there's
even Lamar.
I like Lamar, but so my strategy is to not reach in the fourth, not reach in the fifth, really. You know, because there are a couple guys in those rounds where I feel strongly about that if I can get on my squad, I feel like they could be constant producers and potential league winners. Yeah. So my strategy is try to get a guy past ADP. And then if that doesn't work, there are so many guys afterwards. Later, I mean, so many guys. This is Phil. I mean, I have a handful of guys that we can talk about in a little bit that I just really love in those later rounds. Yeah. So to me, like, you know, maybe the approach is don't press it. You know, if it works, you know, and especially early on in drafts, and I'm gonna still consider this early on. I think the board is kind of, you know, shifting a little bit. I don't want to say tightening because we don't know if we're right just yet. You know, training camp hasn't even started, but it is shifting a bit. But I still think even with the current ADP, with guys that you can get in the eighth round at times, like now is the time to me to go ahead and take that stab at one of those early quarterbacks because you can still build out a full roster. I always like that idea of like having, you know, legit starting running backs, wide receivers, and flex. You know, and so if I can like get a quarterback early on and like, you know, one of the elite guys, and especially if we're playing in these large field tournaments, these guys that could potentially like give me 3 straight weeks of production, I like to go ahead and try to grab those guys knowing that there's so much value that's on the board right now that I can potentially build up a squad. You know, guys like Madison early on when I was drafting, you know, I was getting those guys like in the 8th
Alexander Madison?
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in that situation. But if Cook does end up leaving, like that's the guy. You know, we talked about Hollywood Brown. You know, I kept talking about like how it was just inevitable that, you know, Hobson was going to get cut. So I was just, you know, he was constantly on the list. Getting like 8th, 9th round James Conner. You know, even if the guy is not going to be there the entire season, just him being there for the first 5-6 games makes a huge difference as I can try to figure out the league. So if I can build out my roster and steal one of those early round quarterbacks, I love it. But if it doesn't work out that way, I don't want to try to press for one of those earlier guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I do like. See, so here's the thing with me. So when I first started getting these drafts, I was kind of seeing these quarterbacks kind of like what you were saying, just going in the third round. I was like, wow, quarterbacks are going a lot higher this year than what they were going last year. I think last year they were starting to go in the fourth round, and like you said, it's like 2 quarterbacks, Allen and Mahomes maybe. and all the other quarterbacks were just kind of going like in the later rounds. But now I'm seeing even at the turn, the 301 turn. So the guy in the 1 slot, the 2 slot, the 3 slot, they're taking quarterbacks, right? And then like you're saying, you see like 3-4 quarterbacks go in that third round, and then you see in the fourth round 2-3 quarterbacks, you know, and then the next round, you know, you see more. So quarterbacks are definitely higher. And my approach so far has been, I don't mind it, right? I do believe quarterbacks, like the value of quarterbacks last year we saw was pretty high. You know, it was pretty noticeable as far, right? It's pretty noticeable if you had that quarterback, it can give you that advantage, you know, and people want to kind of take advantage of that. I like Hurts, I like Mahomes, I like Allen, but I actually don't mind the quarterbacks right after that as well. I don't mind Burrow, I don't mind Herbert, I don't mind Lamar, because, and I always look at this with every player I pick, or especially the high players, I can see myself at the end of the season looking back and saying, wow, those quarterbacks were really quarterback number ones. Like any of them I could see. If you told me Lamar Jackson ended up being quarterback number one, that wouldn't surprise me. If it was Burrow, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. If he was Herbert, it wouldn't surprise me. You know? Yeah. So I don't mind taking any of those guys. And it's kind of funny because it's such a wide range of players there that you can literally just pick any of them and be happy. I even see Justin Fields kind of creeping up. That's the one I'm a little.
Trevor Lawrence as well. I see him in the 5th round.
I'm not touching Lawrence that high.
Yeah. I can't like in my right mind, you know, conceive drafting Mahomes or seeing Mahomes and Herb and Allen go in the 3rd round, and then seeing Trevor Lawrence going in the 5th round. I can't touch for me. I'm just not there.
I can't touch Trevor. Yeah. So after those guys, and again, I'm on the fence with Fields. My first thought is like no. I mean, he's good as far as his running ability, and, you know, that gives you fantasy points, but there's just something about that situation that just kind of bothers me. So I'm not quite sure where I'm at with Fields yet, but right after that, I'm passing up all the quarterbacks. And I'm going to wait to get one of those last quarterbacks that I still feel like can have value. You mentioned Dak the other day. Dak is going after Anthony Richardson, which is crazy to me.
That's crazy to me.
Like, we don't know what A. Rich is at the moment.
We don't. I think, you know, it's you know, and again, these are large field tournaments, so the mindset is very different because we saw what happened last year. You can draft a guy like Jalen Hurts, and then he can get hurt. Right. You know? Or you can draft one of these guys and they just have 2 stretches of bad games. Maybe it's weather, maybe a game gets canceled. Right. Like, there's so many things that, you know, you can't really predict when it comes, you know, for accounting for weeks 15 through 17, what we call the money weeks. So that's why I think, you know, if you're playing in these tournaments and you're drafting a number of teams, you really do have to diversify. I'm not saying go after all quarterbacks, but like you mentioned guys like Herbert. I love Herbert this year for a bounce back year. I think that team is just being slept on. You know, Keenan Allen, just like he's one of the players like in that 4th round that I just love just you know, clicking on. But I think there are a number of quarterbacks, like you said, you can make the case that, like, you know, maybe they don't need to finish number 1 overall. They just need to be a QB1 throughout most of the season. You know, give you solid production. What I don't want. This is what I don't want a quarterback. You know, it's easy at the end of the year to look at the stats and say this guy finished as a QB1. I always go back to this. You know, the confidence in starting a guy. You know, the hit rate for when you started him and when you produced. And this is going to be, you know, unique to each player. Right. But if you felt like you did not feel comfortable, even a guy like, you know, Daniel Jones, for instance, who by all accounts had a really good 2022 season. Right.
If you felt like, drafted, by the way.
Say what?
That's who I'm drafting. Like, that's who
you're targeting him?
I'm targeting Daniel Jones.
I love, and that's another guy I love. I mean, there's a lot of guys.
I'd be afraid of Daniel Jones, man.
But this is the thing. These guys are going so late that, like, you can double up. And I remember, like, before COVID, pre-COVID, I think COVID really changed everything, and I think it's less of a factor now, but I think that we've kind of introduced a new phase where guys are drafting multiple quarterbacks. But I remember being in draft rooms pre-COVID, taking multiple quarterbacks, and I just remember the comments of, like, this guy's taking 2 quarterbacks, he doesn't know what he's doing, like, why are you wasting these roster spots and this and that? And I always had this in my mindset that they literally scored the most points. Like, and I'm doing this and I'm drafting this team. I want to hit the nuts when it comes to quarterback. Why wouldn't I take as many swings? Why would I spend more on, like, these handcuffs? So if I'm drafting later, like, I'm definitely I have no issues with somebody who gets in a draft room and you go the approach of just, like, not drafting some of those earlier guys, and then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and get Dak. I'm going to get Anthony Richardson, and then I'm going to go ahead and get a Love at the end. Or if Daniel Jones falls, I'm going to get him. Right. Or you can see the same thing. I love, we saw it in one of our recent the hardway draft. Austin Martin, shout out. I love that strategy. I've done that a couple times as well, where like you like the upside potential of Richardson, but you just tag, you team him with somebody who has a nice floor, but who also could have a ceiling like a Tua. Yeah. So he was at the end on the out of the 12th spot, and basically just took Tua, Anthony Richardson back to back. So there's so many different ways that you can play it, but I do think that given where the league is, and if you're really trying to win that top money, you need to diversify, because you don't know who is going to put up those monster weeks.
Yeah. But I think the problem with that strategy that people were really speaking of was, I think people were taking quarterback early and then also taking a quarterback late. And for me, I don't really like that strategy, because how often are you not going to play that high-end quarterback, right? Yeah. That other quarterback you have in your roster is just going to be sitting there. Those roster spots are valuable. You're going to end up having to deal with waivers, bye weeks. Those are probably going to be the guys you end up cutting first, or dropping off early. So now on the flip end, if you do end up taking a guy late, if you do end up taking like an Anthony Richardson or somebody like that, then dabble in number 2, because we don't know what Anthony Richardson is. I mean, we're enamored by this upside. The combine, he killed it. You know what I'm saying? But let's be real. His game tape at Florida was underwhelming. At times he just looked bad. We don't know what type of Anthony Richardson we're getting. I mean, he's going to have Steichen as his coach.
I'm not in that camp, but I see where you're coming from.
What camp?
That his game was underwhelming, or that he I think he's going to produce. I think he's going to produce.
No, but fancy wise. I'm talking about when he's in Florida. In Florida, he had a lot of bad tape out there. Like he missed a lot of plays.
He had some bad tape, but I think a lot of it was also the offense and offensive skill play.
Whatever the reason, it just wasn't that great. So we don't know what we're going to get. Of course, now he's in the NFL team, NFL talent. Again, a high end or a promising coach that did well with the Eagles, so he might do well. But even them, how do people feel about Aaron Rodgers this year? Are people just totally just ignoring? Because I feel like he's going way too late.
He's going really late, but people are high on the Jets, and
that doesn't make sense to me. If you're so high on the Jets, they have all these weapons.
I don't necessarily know. No, I don't think people are high. They may talk a good game about the Jets, but how many Jets wide receivers are people actually drafting, and where are they drafting?
Garrett Cole is going in the second round.
I'm sorry. You have Garrett Wilson, and then the next off the board, I think, is like Lazard, who goes pretty late. There's not really a tight end that goes off. Breece Hall, people
don't sleep on Jeremy Rucker, but go ahead.
Yeah, so so for people to say that they're high on Rodgers, we know Rodgers is not. He's not going to be running like he he may have in the past, or these current running quarterbacks. So, when we talk about diversifying, there are certain guys that I'm just crossing off my list. And
so you're crossing off Aaron Rodgers?
Aaron Rodgers, you don't have to. If you draft him in the room with me and you want Aaron Rodgers, you can have him.
Oh, I think that's crazy. I think that's crazy. I think he's still suitable. He's still late. You can fill up your whole roster and get depth pieces and have a quarterback that can actually be startable for you. There's so many other
guys I'd rather have. Kirk Cousins. I'd rather have Daniel Jones. There's so many.
Right. I'm not knocking those guys. All I'm saying is, where you can get Aaron Rodgers, you don't have to use high draft capital to get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
And you can still start him.
QB1.
I mean, maybe you won't, but if somebody does, it's not a bad strategy. You can have usable weeks with Aaron Rodgers as your starting quarterback. And that's a player that, again, you could take so late that it's not even going to hurt you. You could take 2 quarterbacks. You could take Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I guess to me there's just too many question marks. Didn't feel like he played all that well last year. I still think he's an accurate quarterback, but I also don't necessarily know that the Jets, want to be a team that, is a high pass volume team.
I don't know, man. Hackett's over there, man.
I'm not sure if they have a choice either.
And they do have a choice because they have an elite defense.
Yeah,
they have a really good defense. So to me, it's just one of those situations where there's just enough question marks about, and the fact that he's likely not going to run. There's just enough question marks where I don't see him as a guy with upside. Honestly, I would much rather have Ryan Tannehill. Much rather have.
What? No. Come on, man.
Would much rather have Ryan Tannehill. Y'all can laugh. Y'all can laugh. If you're in best ball,
that's crazy.
Tannehill
might not even start.
Okay. Right. And if he does, he's on borrowed time.
Right, he's on borrowed time. Clock's ticking.
Clock's definitely.
That's one of the biggest assumptions of 2023.
All right, guys, let's talk about running backs for a second. A topic that I like to talk about. I played running back, so I like to talk about running back.
You play running back?
I play running back.
Stop it.
Yeah.
You look like a fullback.
I know.
Okay.
Nah, he's a scat back. He's
back in my life.
He's a change of pace.
change of pace.
Oh man.
Let's talk about running back.
We need
We
need to breathe.
We need a breather. Yeah, we need a breather.
Don't fumble.
I know.
Don't put that ball on the ground, son. Yeah.
So let's talk about running backs for a second. I want to talk about handcuffs because later in the drafts, guys typically want to handcuff, some of their high-end running backs. Let's talk about handcuffs, the real handcuffs versus the fake handcuffs. Like, Abby, tell me, who do you think is a fake handcuff? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so first let me define this. And I think the reason, the importance of this right now is because right now, again, we are very early on in the draft season. We just getting into OTAs. Training camp has not, started. Teams have full rosters. There's been no cut downs. So, and we're coming off of a draft where there's a lot of rookie hype as well. And basically making a lot of assumptions as far as who the likely handcuff is. The truth of the matter is we really don't know for a lot of these situations.
We don't know.
And you got to keep an open mind. That doesn't mean that you completely avoid the situation. You can go kind of towards Dayo's strategy of maybe just drafting towards talent.
Yeah.
Or you can try and, listen to, the tea leaves and try and determine who you think is going to kind of rise. Yeah. And I'll give a perfect example of this. And these are not ambiguous backfields. These are teams where we are assuming that, a player is a starter and we have a good sense of if that player goes down, this is their backup. So to me, the kind of prototypical handcuff would be an Elijah Mitchell. Okay. And for me, a handcuff that the handcuff that I want, that I would covet, that I want and would dedicate a roster spot to is I play this image in my mind, not that I wish it, but the starter goes down. What happens? Sometimes, yes, it's just as simple as the next guy up, and he takes on 80 to 90% of the workload. Elijah Mitchell, I could see that in San Francisco. And even we could be assuming to some degree there, but I could see that in that situation where Elijah Mitchell takes over the majority of the workload for the 49ers as their starter should CMC go down. But then there are sometimes in certain situations where starter goes down, and we all know that this back or the next back up, who's second on the depth chart, is the handcuff that week. But because the starter went down, the team now realizes that they need more help, and they feel like they may need something better, so then they turn to a vet. We saw this happen in Denver with Latavius Murray. We see this happen in a number of situations where starter goes down and then they bring somebody on the outside. And I think that's things that we kind of have to account for. And that goes to your talent situation. If the handcuffs aren't that talented, then I'm really not going to be dedicating significant ADP towards a handcuff.
There you go.
So this segment, as far as are they real or fake, is not necessarily that they can't be a handcuff, but for me, it's do I really want to, waste, a draft pick on a player who may not even be the second, third, or if the starter goes down.
Are they even going to be productive?
Yeah, are they going to be productive?
Put him in there.
Because we have, we could look at a guy like Jaylen Warren. He's a hot name, hot topic right now. And I think he's likely the handcuff. I definitely think he's worth rostering. But I am less confident in that situation that should Najee Harris go down for a significant period of time, that they just give the reins to Jaylen Warren and that he sees 70 to 80% of that work. I don't necessarily know that they won't bring somebody in or that they won't do kind of a 50-50 split, Maybe he gets the more value touches. He gets the, the third down work and the passes, maybe even some of the red zone, and then, other guys are kind of handling work in between the 20s. But I think those situations, you really got to kind of play it through. What happens if XYZ player goes down? So some of these handcuffs are grade A handcuffs, your Elijah Mitchells. And then some of these handcuffs are okay, they can be useful, but let me not expect, 80 to 90% of what the starter was producing. Yeah.
I mean, for me, kind of like what you're saying, if there's not talent with that handcuff, then even if they get the opportunity of the role, they're not going to help you win, right? They're going to probably give you points. I mean, everybody that gets the ball has the has the capability to give you points. But are they going to actually help you win that week? Are they going to actually help you take you to the promised land? And some of these guys just aren't. We've seen it plenty of times.
Yeah.
So when I look at these late picks, and and sometimes it's not even something where you're worried about an injury. Sometimes these backers are just so good that they can actually get on the field and still give you usable weeks, like a Kareem Hunt last year with the Browns.
Yeah.
You know, Chubb wasn't going down, yet you could still play Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
And you'd actually, actually produce quite a few fantasy points. So, for me, I'm always looking at talent because, again, I feel like every backup, once the starter goes down, they give you this floor of just, he has the role, he gets the carries. Mm-hmm. But if they actually have talent to go along with that role, then that can actually be a player that can actually take you the distance, and that's how you kind of win with those marginal type players near the end of the season. Because always keep in mind, this NFL season is, it's a grind, it's a war of attrition.
Yep.
By the end of the season, we're going to be playing guys in our starting lineup that probably aren't even being drafted in the summer, that people are just totally ignoring. And it happens every single year, So for me, I look at talent. I try to accumulate as much talent as I can. Mm-hmm. If these guys don't work out, throw them back in the waiver pool, grab somebody else needed, But I'm not just going to take a guy just because he's a backup because, I'm not even going to be excited putting him in my lineup, you know?
But, like, who do you see as, like, a top handcuff at this point?
Let's go through I think we had, like, a little list of potential handcuff situations.
All right, like, let's do this. Like, what's the name of that movie? Like, are you entertained? Are you not entertained? Like, what's
that?
Gladiator.
Man,
so let's do a thumb up, thumb up. I couldn't remember. I went blind for a second.
And the delivery.
Yeah. Are you entertained?
Oh,
all right. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Gus Edwards.
Handcuff.
All right. Dial?
I don't like him.
Yeah.
All right.
Handcuff.
Zamir White.
I don't know.
I don't like him.
I don't like him.
All right. Michael Carter.
I don't like him. Not drafting.
Michael Carter?
I'm not drafting him. You can have him. He's free.
He got his spot taken by Zonovan Knight, and they got Izzy now.
Yeah. They basically told you, like, he could be the backup, but I'm going to just go ahead and listen to what they told me and just not ignore, like, the signs that we saw their lead running back go down, and he was, like, nowhere to be found. He was
It actually happened with him.
Yeah, it actually happened. And then they drafted somebody. So,
Keontae Ingram, I think we all agree on that.
So, this to me, this is a questionable because this is a unique situation.
Keontae Ingram?
Yeah, this is a unique situation because
that's that UT logo.
No. He didn't go to UT.
He did go to UT.
Keontae Ingram?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
He started UT and transferred.
Well, he transferred, okay, but he did. Okay, whatever.
Once a Longhorn, always a Longhorn, right?
No, he left. Disowned. Not a Longhorn. Anyway, so this is a unique situation because the Cardinals are obviously, or not, I shouldn't say obviously, but to me they're in a rebuild, right?
Yeah.
So does it make a lot of sense for them to like go spend money on bringing in another veteran, bringing in other bodies, or just kind of rolling with what you got? So if Connor goes down, they may not want to dedicate resources. They may just want to see what they have in a Keontae Ingram, or potentially there's somebody else on the roster.
But what if he just sucks?
Say what?
What if he just sucks?
They may just want to roll with that. Again, this is a rebuild team. So if he sucks, that's a good thing for them. You know why? Because they get that number one pick.
Real life football, but we're talking about fantasy. Like actually being able to use him.
You can stuck and still put up fantasy points. Especially on a bad team where you can just all you got to do is catch 3 or 4 catches, fall in the end zone once.
I'm not.
He's not a high grade handcuff, but I think given the situations that he is actually a real handcuff.
All right, Tank Bigsby.
This is a question.
I like him.
Yeah, like that's a.
I like him.
Y'all know I like Tank.
Yeah, that's a cool.
Yeah, I was on Tank pre-draft, and I thought he could be like an every down back.
Yeah. Jaylen Warren.
Wait, we didn't just I'm not sure if he's a real handcuff though.
Who, Tank?
Yeah, because the fact that he's a rookie and the fact that we saw Jermichael Hasty's,
that's fair.
take over.
They added Dearness Johnson too,
and they added Dearness Johnson. We're going to hear a lot of great things out of camp just because he's a recent draft pick and some of the other guys are just not as sexy. But, to me, this is a questionable situation. And actually, we'll talk about that.
Well, I think he's the perfect example of he may not be the direct handcuff, but as far as talent is concerned, I think he's more talented than everybody else in that backfield. And if he does eventually get an opportunity, I think he's the type of player that actually can give you successful or usable weeks. Yeah. Well, I don't know so much with Hasty, and I don't know so much with Dearness. So
I think Hasty could give you maybe one game, but he's not somebody you depend on. Yeah.
Jaylen Warren.
I like Warren.
I think he's real. I think he's real.
Y'all remember last year there was buzz as far as Warren ended up would take that starting job.
Take the actual starting job.
Just the fact that it was being said and the team didn't deny it or anything, and it was just. It was just something, you know.
Well, Najee was a little banged up too, so that
I think that was
factors into
it. It's just one of those situations where he's just like in plus opportunities when it comes to rushing, when it comes to pass catching, seeing lighter boxes. Like he's in different situations than Najee. So I think when you put him in a situation, he's an every down back. I think you look different. So I think that's just something that like we got to consider. We can't just because these guys come in and like
well, I mean, don't forget he was an undrafted rookie last year, right? So he kind of like worked his way into that position. Yeah. So he had to show a little something, right? You know, but
all right, let's talk about Zach Evans.
North Shore legend, Houston high school legend.
I hate to say it, but I think it's I think it's fake. I'm just not a fan of Zach Evans.
You're not? I mean, I'm a little biased just because I've seen him since high school.
Yeah.
But I like him though. I do think he has a good skill set. The problem with it, he's a knucklehead, man. Yeah. If you know his history, like he bounced around like 3-4 different colleges. I remember when he was first like getting recruited, and actually his initial team that he picked, I think he like withdrew his commitment and on some odd reasons, and then went somewhere else. I don't know. It was just crazy. He left TCU and let Keandre Miller kind of take up. I don't know.
Because he was going to take his job.
Maybe
Miller is just better as a maybe. But I will say this: like there's not a lot of talent behind him.
Right.
So
there's one guy though, Tyon Evans. I like him. I like him.
All right, Dynasty folks.
Tyon Evans. I like him. He has the size. He has the size. Look him up. Look him up. He could be a thing. And like you said, there's not much behind him. They still got Kyren Williams.
Yeah.
Who else? Well, we'll talk about the Rams later.
I know people are hating Kyren Williams.
He's not dead yet, though.
Yeah. He's not.
He's not dead yet.
He's not. So he's one of those guys that's probably not going to get drafted, but like literally. That's where like watching
you can see him being a waiver wire pickup.
This is what you got to do. You got to watch. This is why these week 1 games are so important, and then going back and looking at snap counts, but also just kind of understanding like who's in on certain positions and what they're doing when they're in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking at this. A lot of these questionable situations. Who's the back that's coming in? When they're coming in?
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So.
All right. But this is a big one, Malik Davis.
I like that you have Malik Davis here because I feel like everybody's ignoring him, whether it's because of Ronald Jones or they think Zeke might be coming back. But he's the guy I've been drafting as much as possible.
What's the other rookie's name again?
Deuce Vaughn.
Deuce Vaughn. I don't know why people are. So Deuce Vaughn was going ahead of him. So I was basically just grabbing Malik Davis.
That's nuts considering how small Deuce Vaughn is.
So
his dad works for the Cowboys, so
But so we don't
nepotism.
Hey, get it where you can get it.
Hey, I ain't even knocking. Like, do your thing, man.
But again, this is one of those situations where, like, Tony Pollard isn't, goes down. Like, does Malik Davis get the reins, or do they bring someone in? This is a team where I can see them bringing somebody in because this is a playoff team. So you're not going to just roll with Malik Davis and Deuce Vaughn. You're going to bring somebody else in.
Malik Davis was the running back in Florida with Damian Pierce, and I think he actually was the better running back during their college years. He got more burn while there. So I think there's something to be said that he got hurt last year, I believe, so he really didn't show much. But everybody was excited about him leading into the season. So
he reminds me kind of like a Alexander Madison type almost.
Maybe.
That's a good transition. Hey, but you're getting good at this podcasting thing, man. Let's talk about the Vikings for a second. Let's assume Dalvin is out. Madison is the starting running back. Let's talk about the handcuff being Ty Chandler.
Or Dwayne McBride.
Yeah, or Dwayne McBride.
Yeah.
I think Ty
Chandler. Or
Chandler.
Kene Nwagwu.
Yeah.
Kene.
I've been team Ty like all draft, all season. So for me, it's Ty Chandler. I'm gonna call him the real handcuff. I still think it could be the other guys. I'm not ruling that out. But for me, I'm not diversifying there.
Well, for me, I'm just it's ambiguous to me. Like I'm not putting my claim on anybody specifically. But if I was to pick one, I'd probably lean Chandler because he has the receiving ability. That, like I said, that Konami code last week for running back. So McBride is not much of a catcher.
And again, I mean, sometimes just think like a coach. Like, this is a playoff team. Like, they are likely going to want somebody with experience back there.
Yeah, I mean, just 1 year experience.
Just 1 year. But even that 1 year in that system is still important.
Yeah,
pass protection.
Hey, I like to.
Those things are important.
I like to throw something out there, and it might be a little controversial. I don't believe in Alexander Madison being the guy long term there.
What's long term?
Yeah,
I think he could probably start the season, but I don't think he's going to be the true workhorse, and I'm not sure he'll really hold on to that job the full year.
You've never been an Alexander Madison guy.
He is what he is. He ain't changed. All of a sudden, the talent all of a sudden zoom into his body or anything.
I think what I took notice, and the reason I'm Team Madison, I have been attacking him in drafts, but I try to get the value because you just got to realize that like if Cook does get released, his ADP is going to rise. Madison's ADP is going to rise. So I try not to like reach for him.
You don't think his value is baked in already?
Who, Madison?
Yeah.
No.
So you think people are drafting him? So you don't think people are going at the drafts right now, seeing Madison and not think he's a starting running back?
Like that. People do not think like that. That's why Marquise Brown's ADP is starting to rise. So people don't go in the draft thinking, "Oh, for sure, Cook is gone." Man, if they did that, then Madison would be going in the 5th, 6th round.
But that's what I'm asking you. Like, because I believe people are drafting with the assumption Cook is gone. Everybody. I don't think there's anybody out there that believes Cook will remain on the team.
So they're drafting with like 80% of that assumption. They're not drafting with 100% confidence.
Even with just 80. Yeah. Where he's being taken, you don't think that's baked into his price?
I'm getting him in the 8th round right now. I guarantee you, if Cook leaves, he will not be going in the 8th round.
I mean, he'll probably not. I mean, just that initial news, he'll get a bump, right? The day the trade happens, you'll probably see him get. You think he'll go 2 full rounds higher?
If he's going in the 8th right now, I think he will definitely be going in the 6th round, if not earlier, because it's a high-powered offense too, and he can catch passes.
Okay,
I
mean, I think that would be a mistake, but I mean,
time will tell with that one.
Because again, I think people are drafting him right now. Because on the flip end, if we found out tomorrow, say the Vikings put out a tweet, they decide to keep Dalvin Cook, right? I think Madison's ADP will free fall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Free fall, right? Like I'm talking about like.
But how, I mean, like,
no.
But how far?
If he's going 8th now, I think he's going 11th.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like 11th, 11th, right?
Yeah.
So if he's going 8th now, I think people are already taking into consideration that Cook is gone.
He may.
You think there's people that still holding out hope that Cook is going to stay there, or that Cook might stay there?
I think so, but like I said, like take it like this: as someone who's drafting Madison right now. Yes, I'm trying to take advantage of an ADP and trying to take advantage of a situation that I think is the most likely situation. Okay? That could be 100% wrong, but I think the most likely situation is Cook is not there, so I'm trying to take advantage of that ADP.
Well,
if I felt 100% that Cook was not going to be there, I was 100% confident, then I would be taking Alexander Madison probably no later than the 7th, but 6th round every single time.
You might feel 80%. Cook is gone, right?
Yeah.
And this is just a total assumption. I think there's a faction of people out there that 100% feel like Cook is gone. Like 100%. And even with them thinking that, they're still drafting Madison in the 8th round right now.
I disagree with that take.
You think there's not people out there that believe he's Cook?
I disagree with that take. That's just human mentality. Right now, nobody is making that 100% assumption, and it's like, if they were doing that, he would not be going in the 8th round.
I kind of agree.
I kind
of agree because
you have. What is we have?
Man.
It's a small sample size. We have like 4 games without any Cook, and he's an RB1.
I mean,
in each of those games except for one.
But hear about what they're putting out. Everything that's been out there is they tried to trade him. They almost traded him. They tried to get him to take a pay cut. They want to release. I mean, I hear you. I hear you. But what I'm saying is, again, you're probably thinking more level-headed. Like, there's always a chance. Like, there's always probability, right?
Yeah.
But there's also people that are so certain in their beliefs and things, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a faction of people that are so certain, and I don't think they're wrong.
I think they're in the minority. And if they were the majority, his ADP would be higher, is what I would say. We'll be able to see. I mean, if Cook gets released or traded, we will be able to monitor his ADP.
I mean, everything that's come out. There hasn't been any bit of news.
Not happened.
Right. I'm just saying there hasn't been any bit of news saying that there's a possibility he remains. Right. So what they say, buy the rumor, sell the news. Like, if that rumor's been out there strong, like strong drum beats, hard, strong drum beats, right? And he's still going in the 8th round.
It sounds like, and his ADP maybe is kind of come up since, but literally like earlier, like in drafts when I started drafting.
Can you check his ADP right now? You're in the draft right now, Chris. Where did he go? Because I think you're pretty low in your draft. I'm just curious. Because
his ADP may be like as far as
in the 6th round on my
6th round.
So that's a guy. That's a guy who is pretty confident in his pick.
Right.
But we're in the 6th round. That's early, 6'3".
So again, that's what I'm saying. I feel like his value is baked into that. as far as Cook being gone. That's kind of how I feel.
If he ends up in the third round, but I don't think.
So if Cook is released, do you see him going higher than 6? Or trade or whatever, release trade.
Yeah, I could see him kind of going into the 5th round here or there. Just
so 5th probably top out.
Maybe the back end of the 5th.
Just because remember, you got to remember the landscape of 2023. There are a lot of starting running backs or presumed starting running backs who are going in the 6th round.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's
so. Look, I'm gonna pull up. This is Fantasy Mojo. Shout out to Fantasy Mojo ADP for FFPC Players Championship. And then, this is just ADP for all of May. He is in, he's going in the mid 7th round right now.
Okay.
After David Montgomery, but before Javonte Williams.
And that's from all the drafts thus far.
Yeah.
So you would assume that takes into the average the early drafts when people weren't really sure.
That's for May. That's specifically for
May. Well, we're in June now, so that's including May 1st. So you would think May 1st, there's probably a fair amount of people that still thought Dalvin was going to remain.
We can look at
now, I would think most people are probably like,
we can look at.
But let's move on, guys. Let's move on because I want to do one more. Let's talk about Derrick Henry's handcuff. Tyjae Spears or is it Hassan Haskins? Are we just going to just move?
I have so much Tyjae Spears, it's not even funny.
Yeah, I got him a lot in my rookie dynasty drafts. Yeah. But Haskins, he didn't really just show me much last year.
You did. I'll give it to you.
And even if you look at how they used him last year, Henry went down, right? Henry went down, and they used, who's the guy they used? I'm drawing a blank.
It was Haskins.
That says enough.
Right. And they used, but they used the guy that was actually useful. That you can play. And they still didn't give Haskins much burn.
Back too.
So if you actually have the opportunity that we're asking for happen and you can't produce, and then the next year they draft a guy and they take Tyjae in the 3rd or 4th round this year?
I believe the 3rd.
Yeah, it's like, come on, like what else are we looking for? Like what else needs to be shown? I don't think Haskins is that guy. So no, and Tyjae was one of the most productive running backs in college last year. I think the only concern with Tyjae is really just that arthritic knee. Report that came out.
And really, we don't care about that in the first couple of years of his career.
Yeah, we'll deal with that down the line. We're going to get these Gurley years for now, and then once he falls off the cliff, all right, we'll take him out back.
Dontrell Hilliard is who you was talking about.
Hilliard, the former Brown or something.
He's not with the team anymore.
No.
So the nice thing about Tyjae Spears, though, too, is like it is not out of the realm of possibility that Derrick Henry gets traded. So if that happens, like I love, and he's such a late handcuff too that like I still think Derrick Henry.
The problem with Henry. Yeah. Okay. The problem with that scenario, if Henry does get traded, I don't think Spears is going to be the running back one day one. I don't think they're just going to say, okay, we trust this run. He'll probably get there, but I don't think week one they're going to say, okay, we're going to trust you to be our main back. We're going to trust you in pass protection, all of that stuff.
But going where he's going right now.
Where's he going? Like late? I'm pretty sure late.
He's going like double-digit rounds.
Is he being drafted like the handcuff?
Yeah, Haskins. Okay. I don't even. So
Haskins not even being discussed right now. Okay, but yeah. So I like Spears. I like him a lot. Like I said, for Dynasty, I love him. We'll see what happens in redraft. We'll see what happens in redraft. So
okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about the biggest assumptions so far of this season, because it seems like a lot of high stakes fantasy players are making certain assumptions. One for me is
assumptions.
Assumptions.
Don't make an ass of yourself.
Right.
Sorry, we can't cuss on that.
Why not?
We can't curse on
Why not?
Oh, we tell everybody what we're part of now, right?
Oh no, I guess we've tweeted it out, but we're part of the player profile family.
So we're gonna be censored when we say certain cuss words now, right?
But did they censor us?
But we got people for that, so we curse.
Well, we got cuss
as they should bleep it
before
out.
They eventually censor us.
Yeah.
So we gotta say ass right now.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we should test them.
Yeah.
Ass.
Are they beeping all that
out? All right.
So go ahead.
Don't we need to test out like other curse? No, I'm just
No. All right, so let's talk about certain assumptions that high stakes players are making. Mm-hmm. For me, I've been drafting Chris Godwin. I think that I've been smashing the button on Chris Godwin. What are certain assumptions that the fantasy community is making early on that you guys just don't agree with?
Yeah.
For me, it's Tampa Bay having a bad offense. I know that you share that opinion, AB. Like, let's talk about like certain assumptions.
I share that too. I'm big on that one this year.
Yeah, I think, and this is kind of, I think, just like a bigger idea. I think that the assumptions is basically that we deem X team is going to have a bad offense, therefore they're really not going to be valuable or as valuable fantasy
relevant.
Yeah. And this to me is like where you win.
Sounds like a Texans comment right there, but go ahead.
Yeah, like, and there are a number of teams. We talked about the Titans. Like, everybody's just assuming that the Titans are going to be terrible. I think people forget that the Titans used to be a good team offensively. Okay, yes, they traded away A.J. Brown, but they also had major injuries last year to the O-line. They had that kind of revamp. Their starting quarterback was injured, and they had a guy who was just absolutely not ready. Had to start a day or a QB3, who would normally be a third quarterback option on the depth chart. And so I think that's a team where, and they're bringing in a new offensive coordinator. Actually, one of our
Tim Kelly, former Texans OC,
faithful. So I think we see this team kind of open it up a tad bit, but I think anytime you have a mobile quarterback in Tannehill and a guy who's kind of been in the system or been with an organization for a while and he has something to prove, I keep telling people, like, I really feel like Tannehill is going to have like this 2022 YOLO Andy Dalton type year. If you remember Andy Dalton with the last year, this man just did not care. He was throwing in a double coverage. He played very well, but he was being a lot more aggressive, way more than the Andy Dalton that we had remembered in years prior, because he was basically playing like, look, I ain't got nothing to lose. I ain't got nothing to lose.
Yeah, they want to bring back Winston anyway, so I'm just going to.
So he literally was playing like he had nothing to lose.
And by the way, Andy Dalton, another Houston legend.
Yeah, he is.
Katy High School.
But basically, and you didn't see him check the ball down because he was trying to prove that he was a legit
quarterback.
Which
pissed us off because we had so much Kamara.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you see Alvin right there. What are you
wide
doing?
Open in the flat.
He's wide open.
People like Alvin fell off. Yeah, he may not be like a good runner in between, but he didn't fall off. He just wasn't getting he wasn't getting those easy dump downs. But yeah, what I'm saying is I think this is a team that could potentially surprise. We're already hearing the drum beats, unfortunately, of one of our players that we're trying to have a nice little ownership of.
Who?
No, man, say it.
Burks?
Listen.
Yeah, Burks. Everybody
knows.
Man,
I'm pissed off about that. Because the day I put that in the group chat, remember I put whisper.
I remember.
There was no whisper. I thought nobody was on Burks. I heard nothing, right?
Yeah.
And literally the next week, every day, Burks, Traylon Burks did this. Traylon Burks did this. Like, what the fuck is going on?
It just takes one highlight video. Yeah. But again, that's a situation where I feel like, some of these players are being undervalued, and there's some real opportunity there, not just in redraft but also in best ball. A guy like Tannehill, I guarantee you he's going to be picked up during the season, and I guarantee you he's going to be a valuable starter throughout the season.
He ain't going to be picked up, bro.
He will be because he has legs. People forget about this. He has legs.
Waiver week.
That's what I'm saying. Waiver wires.
Yeah.
But no, he's going to have a run of games where he's just putting up 20 plus points. I guarantee it.
Hey, let me ask y'all something. Mm-hmm. This is totally off subjects. 2 questions, right?
Yeah.
What y'all think these rookie quarterbacks going to do? Not AR, but more Bryce and Stroud. How do y'all see the season playing out?
I believe in Stroud, man. I do.
But do you think they're going to be players that people will pick up off the waiver wire and actually consider playing? You think they'll have that type of season this first year?
I do not.
Or do you think they're all just going to be just
I do not.
Underwhelming quarterbacks?
I think Texans are really going to focus in on a run, try to put Stroud in favorable situations, play action pass. I think they're going to incorporate RPO. You listen to the press conference, they were kind of giving hints.
Oh, I'm listening.
Yeah, you got to listen because players will they'll give you a couple little nuggets here. When they start talking about stuff I was watching Christian McCaffrey tapes and watching him receiving, ignore that. I mean, they got so much buzz. But when they start talking about this is what I wanted to hear because this was an assumption that we were all making. Yes, the OC is coming from San Francisco, but what I wanted to hear is that they were bringing over the components of the San Francisco offense, and we heard Schultz say that, and we heard Damian Pierce say that. Yeah. So to me, already now I have something that I can at least have a basis for to try to extrapolate, my thoughts on some of these players.
Well, last year wasn't Kenny Pickett usable for some teams? A little bit, right? Or am I just totally off?
I was never there. I was never there. Okay. To me, he's like players like that, like him and Bryce Young. Those are less ideal.
So you don't see Bryce Young. You think Stroud and Young are just going to be on the waiver wire the whole season, basically?
Well, at least we'll see. We'll see if they put Stroud in situations where they're using his legs a little bit. Because I think they are going to incorporate that. I think it's a nice thing you can do for a quarterback his first year. But I think with a Bryce Young, given how small he is and he's their number 1 overall pick, what they invested to get in him. They don't want him running, I think. So
right. Bryson's not going to be a running thing. It's going to be straight from his arm.
So that means you're picking him up to like rely on his arm, and that's just something I don't want to do. Like, why would I want to start him?
So you don't envision him having a type of season where it actually is?
No, Tannehill's right there for you. I keep telling you, Tannehill.
Stop it. like Joe Burrow's rookie year, he was usable for some games.
But Joe Burrow's different though, and he had different receiving options.
Who did he have? T. Higgins is it?
He had T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Didn't he have? Who's the tight end back then?
Joe Schmo.
Right.
No. I think he had a legit tight end option. But
CJ Azuma.
Oh yeah, it was Azuma.
No, that one game CJ Azuma had like 3 touchdowns. Went crazy. Okay, here's my next question. Again, off topic. Who's going to be the worst team in the NFC North?
Ooh.
I put this out in the group chat. People didn't like my answer. I said the Minnesota Vikings.
You think they're going to be the worst?
I doubt they're going to be the worst. No, no. So this was predicated because I was like, Minnesota really should just like cut their losses now and trade Kirk Cousins. And I think people
I remember.
Yeah, and people took that as if I was like knocking Kirk Cousins. I'm like, I'm not knocking Kirk Cousins. What I'm saying is like, I don't think Kirk Cousins is good enough to like lead them to where they want to go.
Right.
And so you either like commit yourself to him like for years because he keeps like just doing this thing where he's just like rolling over his contract because like they like are stuck. Or you like try to get like
kind of like that slight above mediocrity.
Yeah. So I felt like like my example, for where I thought they should like consider trading them was to the Commanders, because Commanders could like be a team that could like.
Because you don't like Sam Howell.
Say what?
You think Sam Howell's a bum?
No, so Sam Howell's another guy. Like I probably would rather pick up Sam Howell over any of the other rookie quarterbacks.
I talked to Sam Howell today. Y'all made me defend Sam Howell. Yeah, and I'm not even a Sam Howell fan. I'm over here bringing up past information. Like he was supposed to be the number 1 pick.
Well, we were comparing it to somebody else, so that was out of that. Yeah, it was a little bit out of context.
So Chris, what about you? NFC North, worst team.
Chicago Bears are still going to be the worst.
So you still see that? Right?
I still see the Bears.
That's probably the pick.
They still need more receivers there. I agree. I don't believe in Chase Claypool. I don't think that he's going to be a viable option. I think
he's not even going to start, right? Mooney and DJ Moore?
Yeah. Would you believe in Mooney?
Wide receiver 6?
No.
Okay,
I believe in Mooney as a wide receiver too. The issue with the Bears is not their offense, though. The issue with the Bears is their defense.
Yeah. Well,
so that's what's going to keep them being
I was actually hoping, maybe not hoping, but I was interested to see if either of y'all said the Packers.
Nah. You know, I'm a Love. Well, that's another quarterback that I would draft over.
Yeah, you're a Jordan Love guy.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a whole episode about Jordan Love without expressing your love about him.
I mean, we got so many double entendres.
No, the reason.
How many show titles can we get out of that?
The title just wrote itself.
Yeah. The reason I was asking the question because Jordan Love is the only unknown quarterback at the moment in that division, right? He's the only one where we really don't know what he's gonna be. True. So I don't know. Yeah. It'd be weird to say the Packers end up last in that division,
Yeah, I don't say it because to me the Packers, even though and quarterbacks are a very important position, but to me that the team, like they're just a better overall team. They got some issues on defense, here and there, but I think they got a pretty decent O-line. They got some receiving options. They got rookies coming into their second year now.
Jaden Reed, rookie.
So they're revamped. They're young, but to me they're kind of like revamped. We'll see what they do at tight end with the rookie tight ends. But they got 2 running backs back there, so I think they're going to lean on the run.
Yeah.
But the way that offense is set up is just like he just needs to be accurate.
Okay.
And
use his legs a little bit.
Yeah.
So as far as me, the assumptions, and I don't have any kind of specific. This player or this team. For me, it's just, y'all know me. I'm always if I see everybody zigging, I want to go see what Zag is doing, right? So everybody saying this team is going to be bad or this player is going to be bad, I tend to look at those teams or those players a little bit closer to see if there's just a slight edge to be had. I'm talking about teams like the Cardinals. Everybody's ignoring the Cardinals right now because they think they're just going to be horrible. A team like the Rams, everybody's ignore the Rams because they just think they're going to be horrible. And I'm not saying they're not going to be horrible. The Texans too. The Texans too. Yeah.
Receiving corp. Like
I'm not saying they're not going to be horrible. What I'm saying is there's something that can be had there. These teams are not going to score 0 points.
Yeah.
They're not going to go in every game and just hike the ball and kneel it 4 downs and then turn it over. They're going to put up points to somebody. So sorry, go ahead.
And this is the thing about the Texans is that like it's a completely new coaching staff. So the idea that you can just take what has happened in the past, completely new coaching staff with a lot of new personnel as well.
Right.
Like, you just, like, those are things that I think you really got to take into account. Somebody is going to be fantasy viable.
Useful. Yeah. Somebody will.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the third round of the draft. I want you guys to think about the third round. Mm-hmm. Who do you see being a bust in the third round? Like, who do you see not panning out? I think those first 2 rounds are pretty solid for the most part. We'll probably have some busts there as well. But that third round really hurts. Who do you see in the third round who could really
Is this your draft right here?
But this is Fantasy Mojo.
Okay. So this is the current ADP.
Yeah.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to choose 2 players. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the first player is Travis Etienne. And actually, I want to talk about Travis Etienne for a little bit. We're going to go off on a little tangent. Right, and it's going to sound like I'm talking in circles because I am talking in circles right now.
All right, go ahead.
So I think he's the biggest bust, for reasons that we discussed earlier. Not just Tank Bigsby, but we don't know if they're going to be, Jermichael Hasty is still going to have a role. We don't even know if Derick is going to have a role. And we don't know what these, new receiving options with the addition of Ridley, whether or not it's going to become kind of a more pass-heavy option or a pass-heavy offense. Mm-hmm. I see this really kind of as a not a true RBBC, but like where there's going to be multiple backs used. Okay, now that's why I'm kind of seeing him as a potential third-round bust. Like, he's a guy I would like not touch in the third round. And even last year, where he kind of had the full reins, and you can kind of see him wearing down at times. I think that's not what the team wants, but it wasn't all that great. Remember, we're playing 17-game season, so I think he had like about 1,100 yards, rushing, about 300 yards receiving, and I can't remember how many receptions he had, maybe about 30 or so. But it's just something that we expected more. Mm-hmm. And I remember when he first came out, we had a discussion. And I told you, I just was not a fan because I felt like a lot of his touches were manufactured in this high-powered offense, and he was just running wide open in space. And we haven't seen that receiving option. But this is the one thing that I would consider. And I think his ADP is going to continue to drop. And I think this is when I'm going to, potentially consider acquiring some shares. There's a lot of guys that are going behind him that I just love. So he's going to have to drop quite a bit. But what if we see a role switch for Travis Etienne, where now that they have legit receiving options on the outside with Kirk and Ridley and Ingram, and defenses have to account for that, including the legs of Trevor Lawrence, what if we now see them actually incorporate Etienne in the pass game, like legit incorporate him in the pass game? And now that you have a Tank Bigsby who's talented and can run in between the tackles, remember, I could, running in between the 20s, carries to me aren't that important. But what if we now see Etienne used more heavily in the pass game? So we see him going from just 2 to 3 targets a game to maybe 4 or 5 targets a game. Maybe we see him actually in the slot position. To me, that is where his value would be retained. To me, that's honestly within the realm of possibility, is that we see that switch. Because to me, that makes the most sense. Like, he is athletic. He is very good in space. He is very explosive. Mm-hmm. So let's not beat him up in between the tackles. Let's give that to Tank Bigsby, and let's put him in space. And let's also get them on the field at the same time. So I think that's kind of a thing where really during the OTAs, off-season, training camp, I'm going to be listening very, very closely. And I am going to be paying attention to seeing if he's split out wide and things like that. Second guy is TJ Hockenson. I'm going to have some shares, but I mean, I wasn't a huge Jordan Addison guy, but I think this was the perfect landing spot for him.
Yeah.
Where he doesn't have to be a number one and he can do what he does to his best. To me, he's just like a souped up Adam Thielen. So now I think you don't have Hockenson needing to do what Hockenson was doing towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
Now you have Addison instead. So I think Hockenson goes back to being kind of a more inline tight end. And I think they're going to need a little bit more help there, especially if Cook is not there. And so I don't know if we see, maybe we'll see a couple games where he's getting 8 to 10 receptions. But I think those games are going to be far and few in between. If Addison can get healthy and get back onto the field, I think we see him take over that number 2 receiving option with Justin Jefferson. So I think Hockenson maybe to me should be going more around the Goddard area.
So much disrespect for KJ.
So much. I can't even agree with that because he was the one that helped me get to 5th place last year. So
I know you got love.
I got a special place in my heart for TJ Hockenson. So I just can't accept that. Honestly, the same way you feel about Pollard. That money that year. Yeah, I can't do that with Hockenson.
I mean, but the year that Drake won me money, the following year, I was like, I want nothing to do with this. I want nothing to do with Drake.
That was different. So my guy is, and I don't have any stats to back this up.
Yeah.
I don't have any like PowerPoint or nothing, right? This is just
analytics.
a feeling. Yeah, I'm not an analytics guy like y'all, so I don't do that. But my guy's actually DK Metcalf, right? And it's not so much a knock on DK Metcalf or his talent, but it's just more so I think the other options available there are being undervalued a little bit too much. Tyler Lockett had a damn good season last year. He's still very useful, still knows how to get open, doesn't allow himself to get. I remember there was like this video that was out last year where it's like every time Lockett caught the ball and he was about to get hit, he would like fall to the ground, right? Like he would just try to avoid that contact. And some people would kind of use that as a knock. Well, I was more looking at it like, okay, this guy knows how to protect himself. He knows how to kind of get that longevity. And Geno actually had a connection with Lockett. But besides that, and I put a tweet about this earlier today, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba might be more significant for this team than what we're considering at the moment. Like, number one, he was a first-round pick. That's already a big deal, right? For most cases, already a big deal. I think he was the first wide receiver drafted in the draft, right?
Second.
Who behind who?
Quentin Johnson.
No. He was before Quentin.
You sure?
Yeah, he was before Quentin.
Okay. All right.
And then after Quentin was Addison.
All right.
So he's the first wide receiver drafted. Think back to what Garrett Wilson, who everybody's talking about, is a top 12 receiver right now. Chris Olave, who I saw on reception percentage, was talking about how he's in the top echelon of receivers. Both of those guys said this guy, Jackson Smith and Jigba, is a better receiver than them, right?
Cap. We'll go.
It might. Okay. That's the first thought. It's Cap, right? It's like, right.
I mean, we all use that. We all use that quote. I understand that.
But
I use the quote
we're
myself.
not there. We're not in practices with them.
Yeah.
Something's there.
Agreed.
Right? Something's there. I might not get it,
Agreed.
but something's there. And we just might not know how much the Seahawks love this guy. They might say, look, you're going to be in the slot.
Yeah.
And if you're in the slot, you're our safety blanket. He's probably going to thrive in the slot.
Yeah.
So when you take all that into consideration, they also brought in Charbonnet, who has receiving chops.
Yeah.
You know, they have all these new weapons. And for us to just say, DK, we know what you've done. You know, he has a okay route tree. It's really just more deep passes and like slants. You know, these little simple routes. He's just a big bully out there.
Yeah.
I just kind of see if anything's going to hurt, it's going to be his production. And if he was taken in the 4th or the 5th, I wouldn't even be saying what I'm saying. But I think he's being taken so high, people are kind of drafting him at his ceiling. And unless they just ignore all these other pieces they added, who are all, again, talented, like we're not talking about pieces that aren't capable of producing. We're talking about pieces that actually are capable of producing. Unless they just don't plan on using them, I don't see how DK can live up to the type of expectations there right now.
Devil's advocate or the pro to the DK argument.
Okay.
The pro is basically they run the same offense where it's mostly 2 wide receiver sets.
Okay.
And it's Lockett and DK.
Okay.
And so Jackson is basically.
So do you think they're not going to play Jackson? You think they're not going to play 3 receiver sets?
I think Jackson is basically the Lockett replacement. I think they saw an opportunity.
So you think they're going to bench Lockett this year?
No. I think for next year, I think this is.
So you don't think Jackson's going to be useful this year? Is basically what you're saying?
No, I don't. Okay, I don't.
See, and that's kind of where we disagree because I do think they have a role in mind for Jackson.
You know, it would take a head coach who's just sort of kind of micromanaged and dominated the offensive philosophy for him to now change and say, I want to throw the ball.
Let me ask you this.
And now I want more 3 wide receivers.
Let me ask you this.
And let's not forget, though, they also did draft Zach Charbonnet as well.
Yeah.
After they just drafted Kenneth Walker. So
right.
I still feel like this is a team that's mostly going to use
let me ask you this.
But the last thing is that, like, I think Metcalf had one of those like inefficient, unlucky years. So when we talk about like regression, I think he's a candidate.
You think he's going to regress the other way, the positive way?
I think he's a positive.
Let me ask you this: if the Seahawks right now, as is, had Gary Wilson on their team, do you think they would not play Gary Wilson? Or how do you think that would play out? Because
I don't think they would. Because again, I think
you don't think they would play Gary Wilson.
Think about the head coach. Remember, they drafted Rashad Penny in the 1st round and did not pay him.
No, first round. You're right. First round.
But
he's also hurt though. He was not hurt.
He was not hurt when
he got hurt that first season.
He did, but he was not hurt when they were still putting him on the bench. They drafted him in the first round. Everybody was talking about
because that's when Chris Carson was actually showing out, though.
But they drafted him in the first round. So what I'm saying is Pete Carroll is not afraid to just take a player and sit him on the bench. Even when Rashad Penny and both Kenneth Walker were healthy last year, at the same time, it was still Rashad Penny.
I think that's a different situation because I think if Penny didn't get hurt, he would have got that first opportunity to show out. I think because he got hurt, Chris Carson got the opportunity.
No, he didn't get hurt at the beginning of the year, though.
I don't think he started the season. I think he got hurt to come out the gate. I mean, we can look back at it, but again, just if they don't have this major role in mind for Jackson Smith-Njigba to start off the season, I don't see why they would have drafted him in the first round like that.
There's a couple different things with this, though, too. So it's not just the head coach and the offensive system that they're going to want. Are they going to be more 2 or 3 wide receiver sets? It's also like the quarterback is Geno Smith, and yes, he played well last year, and the offense is an offense. The offense is a first read. The offense is a second read. He's not going to be somebody that's going to go back there and like kind of pre-read the defense and then know exactly where he's going to go unless he just sees something.
So you don't believe in Geno too much?
Not that I don't believe in Geno, but I believe that DK is the number one option. So I think he's going to look to DK's way first.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's going to look to Lockett's way second.
Right.
And then Jackson's way third.
And I'm not arguing DK being number one. I'm definitely not saying take any of these receivers over DK.
Yeah.
By any means. You know, it's just more so there's so much of the pie, right? There's so much of the pie, and I don't know if all that's going to go to DK the way
but then you would
for that third round cost.
You would need the offense to change for them to
I think the offense might change a little bit.
A third wide receiver.
Yeah, I do think that might happen.
What indication is there for that, though?
I mean, action, right? They drafted a receiver in the first round.
They also drafted another running back when they didn't need to.
Right, and I think they're going to use both those running backs. And in the dynasty world, that hurt Kenneth Walker's value a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, Zach Charbonnet was considered a top 3 or 4 running back in the draft for a lot of people in the dynasty world. So when he was drafted by the Seahawks, I mean, the initial reaction was, oh no, first of all, why the hell did they do that? And number 2, this dings the hype on Kenneth Walker a little bit. You know why they did that?
Number 1, historically, they've just had terrible luck when it comes to running back staying healthy.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's really caused a lot of issues.
Even Kenneth Walker got hurt last year. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they needed running back replacements.
Yeah.
Okay, they needed running back replacements. So they wanted to shore up that running back room because they are a run-first team.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll is a defensive minded, and they've done a lot on defense. To me, I think that's kind of understated as what they've done on the defensive end. But like they want to win with defense. They want to control the clock with running the ball, and I just don't see them just like opening up the offense, getting 3 wide receivers out there to include.
I mean, it's one of those things where we won't know it until we see it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if they do it, I'm not going to be shocked. The track record obviously isn't there at the moment, but they also have not had this type of talent, all 3 position groups. All 3 receivers as well as 2 high-end running backs. I mean, Chris Carson was good, but he was still a 6th-round pick.
Chris Carson was good. Though.
Yeah, he was good, but he was still like now you have 2 running backs back-to-back years you drafted in the top 3 rounds.
Chris Carson was better than Kenneth Walker to me. As like a pure running back. Kenneth Walker was a lot more athletic. Yeah, he could hit home runs. But Chris Carson was a legit good running back. He got you more than you needed. He kept the chains moving.
You think he was better than Kenneth Walker?
Yes, he was better than Kenneth Walker. No. I even think he was better than Kenneth Walker in the passing game.
You think he's better than Rashad Penny?
Who? Chris Carson?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no. He's better than
Penny. When he was healthy, yes, he was better. He just performed better. He gave you what you needed.
I think
he gave what Pete Carroll doesn't want somebody who's just, looking to hit home runs all the time. Because you may hit 1 home run, but then you may stall out on 3 drives.
I think he was a watered, diluted as much as possible version of Derrick Henry.
Who?
Chris Carson.
No, he was better.
That's just how I see it. I don't think he was much in the passing game and all that stuff, but.
All right, guys. So each episode, we want to do a team spotlight. This week, we're going to do the Rams. Let's talk about the Rams for a second because people believe that the Rams are going to be pretty bad. I think people forgot that Cooper.
Assumption.
Right.
Ass. No.
People forget how good Cooper Kupp was. People forget how good that connection with Matthew Stafford was. Also, Cam Akers is coming back. I don't know if everybody feels good about Cam Akers coming back. This offense isn't that bad. You still have Tyler Higbee. What do you guys think about this Rams offense? Let's go through each of their weapons and let's talk about whether you believe in them or you don't, and how do you think the Rams are going to be this season?
Yeah, man. This, again, just kind of goes like to piggyback off of the last discussion as far as like assumption goes. I don't necessarily, I think I think people are seeing Cooper Kupp as a top end wide receiver, and rightfully so. I think he's going to be fully healthy from the from his injury from last year. By all accounts, there shouldn't be any residual effects. When we last saw him on the field, he was the true number one wide receiver. I think an argument really could be made that he should be the wide receiver one. And I think as we kind of get closer, we see him like in training camp, and we know that Stafford is there, and we start hearing more positive vibes. Like, I think we could see him going in like the top 2, top 3 range. In my mind, like I already have him like as number 3. I have him 3. I mean, him and Hill.
3 overall, or third wide receiver.
3 overall. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I really like what Kupp gives you from a standpoint of ceiling and just overall floor. I think it's just something that like you can't beat. And the fact that Stafford's coming back, the fact that Sean McVay is coming back, and I like that even what's his name, Aaron Donald's coming back. Like to me, that just says like it's a team that like has something like to prove. You know. Yeah. So, but that's not Kupp is not the one in question. I think everybody else is. Yeah. Stafford doesn't even get drafted. I think he's an afterthought. I think people have just kind of given up on him. I think what happened with the Rams last year is that it was really one of those true Super Bowl hangovers, and I think it started from the top with the head coach. Yeah. Yep. I think he came in with not a very good offensive scheme, because he is someone who I does feel like does a good job of like changing things up. He doesn't just have like one type of offense. He plays to his strengths, but I think whatever he devised for that whole 2022 season just like never came to fruition, and it all started with that offensive line. We saw it early. We saw it in that very first game. That offensive line just got absolutely destroyed. Stafford, was seeing ghosts. I mean, it was a bad situation all around, and he ended up getting hurt. And I think just morale, I think everybody else just gave up. You just won a Super Bowl. What are we really fighting for out here? But that being said, I mean, we could easily see Stafford come back. We'll talk about some of their receiving options now, but healthy Van, our boy Puka, who we'll get into, and Higbee, and then O-line can't get any worse, should be better. Having a reliable run game. I think this offense could be a lot better than what people think, especially if Sean McVay was in the lab this season and he really kind of took it to heart as far as how bad they looked towards the end of last season. So Stafford's somebody who's undervalued. I think the Rams wide receiver 2 is undervalued right now, whether it's Van Jefferson or Puka or Tyler Higbee. I think they're going undervalued. And then I think Akers is probably right at value, given again where all the other RBs are going. You just got to be a believer or not. He finished I want to say his last 3 games or so. He finished with
he finished strong last year.
He
finished
strong.
Yeah.
They were soft matchups, but he still finished strong. But you got to remind yourself this was a bad team. With not a lot of receiving options. We had Baker quarterback. So teams weren't really respecting the pass game because there were no receivers. So for him to still do that, even against non-elite competition, I think says a lot. They haven't done anything to bring in anybody else. Yeah, I don't really like anybody else behind him. I really think that this is an opportunity where he could. I don't think he's has high-end RB1 upside, but I think potentially mid. I think would be his ceiling, but I really see him as a low-end RB1. Who can give you some good weeks, and we starting these 0 RB builds. He's a perfect target for me.
Yeah, but you don't feel that way about Akers, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
What do you mean, as far as not liking him or liking him?
As not liking him. You don't like Akers.
I have no problem with Akers. I think he's being drafted at a good spot. He's not drafted too high. He's a starting running back. I don't think there's a threat to his job or his role unless they bring in somebody, which is obviously always a possibility with any running back. But I actually like Akers' situation. He's probably going to be playing for a contract soon, so he might be a little bit motivated. And again, the way he finished the year, he finished the year good. Yeah. Another year removed from that Achilles injury, so it kind of wheels up for me for Akers. So I like Akers, and he's the type of player where he can be a starting running back that you can draft late and feel comfortable with them. Yeah. But going back to the receivers, and I'm a little bit on the opposite spectrum as far as Cooper Kupp. I'm concerned, right? Now, we've seen Cooper Kupp do great. He's had one of the greatest wide receiver seasons in NFL history. That Super Bowl year, he came out the gate last year just ablazing. Crazy stats, love it. But I saw just yesterday or the day before they said he's just now started running. And obviously I should have known this, but it's one of those things out of sight, out of mind. But because we haven't seen him in so long, we forgot he is still recovering from this injury, right? We don't know how he's going to start the season. We don't know if they're going to ease him in or if they're just going to say day one, just go all out. With the way that team is just kind of maneuvering right now, all their moves, these trades, Stafford still kind of coming back from injury, things like that. The coach this offseason was questioning whether he even wanted to return this season or retire. I'm not really sure what I expect from Kupp, and I don't have a problem with Kupp, but I think everybody that's drafting right now is drafting him with the assumption he's going to be the same Kupp he was before. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but you have to take the consideration of him not being the same Kupp. Him still kind of working his way back. And if he's still working his way back, is he going to pay off that? What is he going, like 5th pick right now? 105? As far as ADP?
I think from an injury standpoint, everything that I've read and just talking with Carlos and just kind of seeing all the other physical therapists, orthopedic, kind of projection and outlook for him. I don't think anybody is concerned about his injury. I think everybody feels like he's ahead of course.
Maybe
they given like where when he had the injury, when he had surgery. There were talks that he could have came back last year if he wanted. I think they're just being like extra precautious.
Maybe, and they might be, and they actually might be being extra cautious. And who's to say they won't take that into season being extra cautious? I just don't know what's going on there. And again, just the fact that they said yesterday he just started running, which means he hasn't even been participating in these OTAs at all. It just makes me just kind of hesitate a little bit. Now, with that being said, again, Cooper Kupp is what he is. Nobody's even really having much of a discussion.
And you don't got to take him at number 3. Like, I'm not taking him.
Because he falls, it's all preference. He's going to go first round. No matter what. If you have the 112, even if you hate Cooper Kupp, if you have the 112 and he's there at 12, you're taking Cooper Kupp. So that's not even the discussion. It's more these ancillary pieces. So, and I know you don't like him, but Van Jefferson's still there. Van Jefferson's in the contract year. Van Jefferson actually didn't look bad before they brought in A-Rob. A-Rob kind of made Jefferson kind of push back on the depth chart a little bit. But Van Jefferson might be a thing. He's a second-round pick from Florida like 3 years ago. Knows the system. Other than Kupp, he's the longest tenured receiver on that team. And again, it's a contract year, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's a thing. He's probably somebody that's totally undrafted, somebody that can be a waiver wire pickup.
He goes late.
He's being drafted?
Yeah, I have a couple shares. I'm not a believer in Van Jefferson.
You actually drafted him?
Yeah, I've drafted
him. Good for you.
He goes late. I do not believe. I've never been a fan of Van Jefferson.
But you still drafted him. That's smart.
What I have not drafted is Puka, and I need
Well, let me get to him in a second.
Yeah.
So after Van Jefferson again. Van Jefferson, good size, contract year. That's the thing. Then you still have Tutu Atwell. Now, Tutu Atwell, he hasn't really done much. He was drafted 2 years ago. Another second-round pick.
Small.
Extremely small.
Too small.
But he's fast.
Extremely fast.
Too fast.
Extremely fast. It's like when I was writing out some notes. Like, I wrote in small letters, small. And I wrote in big letters, fast. Like, because he gives you both of the end. If you utilize him right, put him in space, design. I mean, we're talking about Sean McVay, one of the greatest offensive minds in the league. If he could figure out a way to utilize, you have to wonder, why do they take this guy in the second round?
But he's one of those guys. He's not startable. He's not draftable.
He's a guy.
He's a guy that you use to open space up.
Maybe, whenever. I guess I'm saying is this is not fantasy wise. This is when we're talking about just what they have, and maybe he's more of a best ball guy. If you want to do a Ram stack, maybe take him with one of your last picks, right? Because he might, have one of those type of things. But he's there. The guy that actually was being used a fair amount last year, Ben Skoranek.
Yeah.
He sucks.
He sucks, but they used him. And remember what we always say.
That's why I like Puka.
Remember what we always say. It doesn't matter what we think. It matters what the coaches think.
But now they know though. Now they know. Now they know.
But they were using him all the way to the last game of the season.
They were using him, but you could see that they didn't have a lot of trust in him.
Yeah,
confidence in him.
Maybe he had a connection with Baker that we didn't know. Maybe they showered together or something. I don't know. They went to go to the bar together or something like that. You still have Lance McCutcheon, who in the beginning of the season we were actually kind of like thinking maybe he might be a thing. Yeah. He wasn't nothing at all, right? But he's still there, another year in the system. Yeah. And then Puka, who was a senior draft pick, BYU. Yep. He had health issues, which is probably why he went as late as he did. But definitely has opportunity, has the size, been getting a little bit of buzz.
Yeah. You know who I see? Again, this is like best case scenario. This is like 20th round pick, or like just somebody to keep in mind and pick up after week 1. Like I could see them kind of like returning to the days of like where there's like maybe like a more legitimate 2 option. Like I could see him being like a Robert Woods in his offense.
Puka?
Yeah. Like easily, like he has that athleticism. I could see them like.
I think he's gonna have to fight Van Jefferson, but
yeah, I feel like to me Van Jefferson is just gonna stay in that role of just being a deep threat.
Yeah,
and I don't even know that he's that good at that. But I just don't see.
I don't see him as a deep threat. I see him more as like a possession receiver.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, he's not that great a route runner. I could be completely wrong, but I'm not a Van Jefferson.
Well, they just need to give us this opportunity. We haven't really seen it to really say, you suck or you got something there. Mm-hmm. And then the tight ends, right? Hunter Higbee. I feel like Hunter Higbee is being a little bit ignored.
Tyler
sorry, what did I say? Hunter? Yeah, Tyler Higbee. I feel like he is being ignored. Right, he's produced.
He's my highest owned player.
He's produced.
I literally think he's my highest owned player.
He was kind of a league winner a couple years back too. Somebody actually was putting, especially in these tight end premium leagues.
Yeah. That's what you got to think about too, though. Like he is a guy that like weeks 15, 16, 17, you may get 2 weeks where like for whatever reason like they have to go to him frequent and often. And he catches like 7 or 8 passes for like 70
and he has a connection with Stafford.
He does.
He has that connection with Stafford. So he's a guy. But don't also ignore the trade, the Jalen Ramsey trade, bringing in Hunter Long from the Dolphins, who I forget if he was a 3rd, 4th round, maybe even a 2nd round pick of the Dolphins. But this guy is talented. He hasn't got the opportunity. People were thinking he was going to take over Mike Gesicki's role. Or Mike Gesicki's job when Mike Gesicki got franchise tagged last year by the Dolphins. Yeah. At the time, they were thinking maybe they wouldn't re-sign him. Yeah, that was stupid. But they traded him like he has a chance to be a thing over in the Rams. He's still very young. Yeah. Again, talented. I saw a highlight recently where he caught a touchdown pass. These OTA highlights, they can make anybody look good, but they still put it out there. So
you're just gonna skip over Bryce Hopkins?
Yeah.
He's good though.
No, I'm gonna skip over. Totally skipped over. Right. So okay, he's there. Okay. He's there, but
I mean, he's a receiving option.
Yeah. But all these guys, man, I'm telling you, we look back at it in the season, we'll be like, man, one of these guys are a thing. Yeah. And if you just kind of just pay attention, you can kind of be one of the first ones in line to get them. Yeah. Because the first time they do something, everybody's gonna kind of be like, is this a one-off or is this a real thing? If you're just aware of who they are, you might be able to kind of jump the gun a little bit.
That's a good point. Like these guys that we talk about, these late round picks, like you don't have to draft them because people are going to assume that it was just a one-off. But if you're aware of that now, you're aware of the possibilities now, it is a lot easier to put in a waiver claim for them and get them that first week and then just have them.
Yeah.
Or even just get him before the first week and say, you know what, I'm going to roll the dice.
Yeah.
Let's see what
and
you
if
got.
He doesn't, he's throwing back in the water.
He's throwing back in the water.
Yeah.
But one of these guys is going to hit. Yeah. Puka's a rookie, so he has a lot to overcome. But, I can see.
We like him. We drafted him in our dynasty league. Yeah, we drafted him. So
I took him everywhere I could.
All right, guys. I think we're over time.
Wait.
What's up?
I got a few sleepers.
No, sleepers.
I'm just gonna say their names.
Dynasty sleepers.
Dynasty.
Well, we don't give out sleepers.
We don't give out sleepers. Dynasty. And I also want to mention one more thing. This is our first episode with Roto Underworld, so I'm gonna throw a little gem out there that we know we always bring it up, but we don't bring it up enough. Yeah. And I think people need to take a little bit more, pay attention a little bit more. Okay. But as far as the sleepers, I mentioned one earlier, Jeremy Rucker. And this is more dynasty sleepers. So for my dynasty group, these guys aren't dynasty guys. I just got them in last year. Yeah, they just still kind of dipping their toe in the water. But Jeremy Rucker for the Jets, Third round pick last year from Ohio State. Chris Sims, who always has those controversial rankings, ranked him as number 1 tight end last year. And he's been getting a lot of buzz in OTAs. Like literally, search his name on Twitter, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like they love that guy. Cole Turner, the tight end for the I was gonna say the
I'm not here for this Logan Thomas slam.
The guy that's gonna take Logan Thomas's job, Cole Turner. Look him up. He's a nice one as well.
Special place in my heart.
Yeah, and then of course y'all know I like Chris Rodriguez. We'll see what happens with him. He doesn't have much of a passing game to him, but the coaches like him, specifically Bieniemy. He specifically was standing on the table to pick up Chris Rodriguez. And then the one more thing I want to say.
All right.
Okay, this is a gem, especially for people. Not even especially. Only for people that play FFPC, because that's what we tend to play a lot. That's kind of where he won his 2 championships and all that money.
And you came in 5th place last year.
And I came in 5th place. Yeah, whatever.
All right.
Don't forget. All right, where's my camera? Right here?
Yeah. All right, get the close up.
Don't forget the first game of the season, that Thursday night game, is a free look. Mm-hmm. So that means we're talking about the Chiefs and the Lions. Both those teams, they're going to play their game. You're going to see how they score, and then at that point, you're going to decide whether you want to put them in your lineup or not. So with that being said, and I'm not talking about the obvious ones, the Kelce's.
I know where you're going with this one.
I'm not talking about the Goffs or the Gibbs and all of them or the Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm talking about the kickers, the defenses,
the wide receiver 2s and 3s.
All these ancillary pieces. Just draft them. Just draft them, right? You see how they play out that first week? If they suck, throw them out there, pick somebody else up.
It's not a bad, if you got a free roster spot, just a guy that just like, you got a roster spot to burn, you just didn't draft well. Or you just got to
pick a line or cheat. Just throw them on there.
Marvin Jones.
Yes.
MVS.
Sky Moore.
Justin Ross.
Justin Ross. That's what I was going to say.
Rasheed Rice.
Justin Ross.
Laporta.
Yeah.
Sam Laporta.
But those guys have been drafted. But
yeah, he's drafted, but he's still drafted late.
Yeah.
He's a one-up. Again, you're drafting what's the kicker for the Chiefs? Buckner. Yeah. But Patterson, Riley Patterson, the guy that was with the Jaguars last year, that did pretty good.
Yeah.
He's an option. I wouldn't even mind drafting the Lions defense because
Jared Goff.
You never know,
KC
right?
defense, Jared Goff.
Yeah, KC defense, Lion defense. Just see. And if they suck, you can throw them out. If they're good enough, put them in your lineup. You got free points right there. Bank your points.
Yeah.
So
Jared Goff is a good guy. Like if you're kind of concerned about your starting quarterbacks first,
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is a good option to go with.
Yeah.
And then if he fails, Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Well, all right, come on.
I don't put too many gems out there, but
On that note, guys, we are out for this episode.
Yes, sir.
Please like, rate, subscribe. We're out.
Yes, sir.